Hi, welcome to Behind the Badge. I'm Chief Alan Rodbell of the Scottsdale Police Department, and with me is Christmas Sal, Community Liaison. How are you doing?
Hi, Chief.
Can you believe it's November?
I know. So scary. Christmas is going to be here, and then we'll be on. Then we have to learn how to write 2017.
Oh yeah, that's always
that's the hardest part.
And I was pretty good with I make a 6 out of 5 okay. I can make a 7 out of a 6 pretty good. Who writes checks anymore anyway?
I know.
But bottom line is that it's all money cards anyway.
Yeah.
So it's the holiday season, and of course people are out. We want to remind people, please plan ahead. There's plenty of celebration in the air already with Halloween and Thanksgiving coming up, and soon the Christmas and Hanukkah holidays. Just be careful. Plan ahead. Don't drink and drive. Designate a driver. Just be careful. Kids are out on the streets.
Kids will be off of school, so you got to be careful. They're going to be outside playing and stuff like that. So.
And nothing really much is going on with us in terms of any citizens academies, because this is sort of the time when we get really busy with our activities in the community. All the big events start. We start gearing up for those, and we've got some already this first weekend in November. Right. So this is a good time to enjoy the festivities that occur in our city during season.
Yeah, so many cool places to go and see in the Scottsdale, the McCormick Ranch, the lights, and just all the stores already have everything Christmas, so it's fun. Yeah. It's a good time of the year.
So this is going to be an interesting program, I think, because what ends up happening is that anytime you have animals or small children,
you never know what's going to happen.
They don't even know we're on the stage. But yeah, you're right. We've already got floaties because our first guest had a bath this morning, and so if you see us waving like this, it's because there's dust in the air. But you have HD on this, I think, at some point, so you probably see what we're doing. But our first guest is a very important part of our team, and a first. And I always brag. I'm pretty sure it's the first nationally for a police department to have a crisis animal on board. We've shared Fozzie with other programs, but it's always nice to retouch it with our community about the things that are going on and how we're outreaching with folks that are under a great deal of stress, going through crisis, and have a mental health issue perhaps, and how we reach out as a police department, because more and more of all calls for service are around people that are in crisis and need some support and help.
And I know we've featured the crisis intervention before on several programs, and actually they always come up because when we have guests on, they talk about how fabulous our crisis intervention social workers are, and we have one here today. So Anthony, neither of us are touching your name, so go ahead and introduce yourself, and please tell us how long you've been on the Scottsdale Police Department.
And your partner.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Pagliuca, and I've been with Scottsdale Police in the crisis unit for 9 years now. And this is my partner. This is the better half. This is Fozzie Bear. Fozzie, sit. This is Fozzie. We do believe, Chief, that he is the nation's first full-time crisis dog that works for a police department, and we're very proud of him.
And he's got 2 stripes on him, which means those are 4 years.
8 years.
That's 8 years in service in the city of Scottsdale. I don't know where time has gone. I remember introducing him at a budget meeting in front of the council as a little bit of my stress release, having him there beside me, and that is 8 years ago. That's phenomenal.
And for people to know, those chevrons, all the officers, if you see those chevrons on people's, yours starts from about your your wrist, and it goes kind of up to here for 40 years. But each chevron equates 4 years of service.
Yeah. And that's been true with every organization. Some have 3 years, but ours is 4 years, and they wear them on their dress uniforms on long sleeves, and
that's his uniform.
We talked about doing dog years, but it would take a lot of space.
That was smart, Ann. That was really smart.
Maybe we wouldn't do that.
He's got more experience than that guy.
I think so.
Anyway, so tell us a little bit about the history here, because yes, it's true that he's the first that came to us. He was he couldn't do certain things as a rescue dog or a support dog, but he could do other things, and that's one of the reasons he came to us.
Correct, Chief. Fozzie was donated to us by Paws with a Cause, which is a national service dog provider in Michigan, and he was in training, and it just wasn't quite working out for the service dog training. So what they do is like dogs to be, they call them career changers. So instead of being a traditional assistance dog, they like to get these dogs jobs with law enforcement agencies, doing bomb work, drug sniffing work, that sort of thing. And we reached out to say we're kind of interested in maybe getting a crisis dog. They were wonderful, and they said that they might have a perfect fit for us. And that was Fozzie, who was getting ready to be a career changer.
And so he's had, through the 8 years, how much experience, how often do we use him?
You know, it's kind of hit and miss. There's weeks that we have 2 or 3 call-outs, and there's weeks where the calls just aren't appropriate. We have a pretty good algorithm for when Fozzie is appropriate for a call. For example, someone has pets in their home, or cats or dogs, they already have access to that therapeutic touch, so we won't deploy Fozzie in a house like that, because luckily that person already has that resource. or if we go to calls maybe in our jail or some other places where it's kind of dynamic and not safe for Fozzie, then he won't deploy. So we always try and make sure that it's safe for him because the work he does is kind of different and needs to be kind of a more calm and safe circumstances.
And so you talk about him being the better half, but you clearly come to the table with a little bit of experience and knowledge and training yourself.
And expertise.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
Initially, I got my EMT and thought I wanted to be a firefighter, but realized I didn't like waking up at 4 in the morning or 2 in the morning and that kind of thing. So I pursued some education in counseling, got a Bachelor of Science in Human Services and a Master's degree in counseling, and just fell in love with crisis work and helping people on their worst day, trying to make it a little bit better. And so I'd worked in various crisis situations for fire departments and nonprofits and that sort of thing, and then I got my dream job here about 9 years ago.
Okay, but we've woken you up in the middle of the night, have we not?
That's true, but we sign up. We do on-call rotations a week at a time, but everybody here wants to be here, and it's the pinnacle of what we do. So we realize if we're waking up, someone's having a bad day. There's a lot more going on than just us waking up. So we always understand that someone somewhere needs us, and so you just get up and you head to it. And it's funny because Fozzie knows when my work phone goes off that he's getting up and he wakes up right away and he's really excited. So
that's
it's great.
What a great partnership. And it's interesting that you said that he had a career change. Obviously, that's why you're such a perfect fit because you obviously had a career change in direction as well. So we're happy to have you here. Tell us a little bit about the department as a whole, and I know we've talked about this before, but some of the other things that your department really, some of the calls that you guys deploy on.
Sure, so there's 7 people in the police crisis intervention section. We have a supervisor and 6 crisis specialists, and what we basically do is try and support the officers and detectives in the field on a variety of crime scenes. So it could be a violent crime, it could be some kind of death investigation, child abuse, sex assault, a mental health issue, someone might be suicidal. We do quite a bit of death notifications, so we try and kind of the best way to look at it is like psychological paramedics. We try and respond right away to the scene, assess people, treat them, and refer them for ongoing care. Try and stabilize it, leave people a little bit better if possible, if we can, and then make sure they have ongoing care. So that's kind of the best, in a nutshell. We like to say we're like the Swiss Army knife for the department. We try and, there's really nothing that we won't try and do and try and be helpful. And you know, we kind of say that when people need help, they call the police department, and when our officers need help, they call us. So we're kind of happy to be in that role.
Is it not?
And I will tell you, we recently graduated a Citizens Academy group. During the Citizens Academy, everyone does a ride-along, and I asked people what mostly surprised them during the course of the ride-along, because everybody comes with preconceived notions of what's going to take place. And we literally heard from one or two of the folks there that said they were surprised that all they did all night long was seem to run mental health calls, issues involving folks in crisis.
I remember that.
And
I think I was Sharon that asked that.
And we're seeing that nationally. We're seeing that lots of places, not just here. That's happening everywhere. And so the concerns are that we have to have resources available to us to deal with that, because as police officers, we're developing skill sets and crisis intervention teams, and our folks having mental health first aid training, but really we don't have the depth of skill sets to deal with some of the issues facing us here locally, and you guys fill that void beautifully. And
I do know that, Chief, we've had so many guests on, the detectives and as far as the officers, they love crisis intervention. They think you guys are the best, and they love to partner with you.
And we're really lucky because we love what we do, so we get to focus on our kind of lens, if you will, and that hopefully will free up the detectives or the officers to focus on the investigation and catching the bad guys and giving our victims justice. So we can kind of hopefully free them up to do what they do best, so that we can provide services for the victims and support and try and explain what's happening, because sometimes in these dynamic scenes people are scared and confused, and so I don't have to worry about catching a bad guy. My whole world is taking care of the client and the victim and the witnesses, so we're able to do that. So it's a great partnership, and we work with such amazing people. It's really amazing to have a career here.
And I know you guys are involved in a little outreach and education as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
So PCIS does quite a bit throughout the community. Where we're involved in the Crisis Intervention Training Program, which the CIT is a 40-hour training for officers throughout the East Valley to give them more skills in their toolkit, so to speak. We also have some of my colleagues teach to the community on mental health issues. We do outreach to schools. We do community outreach to Fozzie. We'll go to visit schools and do safety talks with our crime prevention officers and try and give people information on a variety of topics, and just whatever we can to try and support the community. We also support other city departments when they need training on how to deal with an individual that's difficult, or how to best serve someone with mental illness that's kind of showing up at different facilities and might need help. So we try and just do whatever we can to support the different units, and part of that means also we go to a lot of training so we can stay current, because there's always things changing with mental health and in the field. So we try and stay current with that as well.
And unlike us, and we've been in the major leagues for a long time, me longer than you, okay, because you're a lot younger, but for us, he's got a baseball card. I don't have a baseball card.
I know.
So he's got a baseball card.
He does, Steve. This is the brand new, this is the version 3. This is his latest edition. And so we usually have them on us, so if anyone ever sees us, we're happy to give those out. And anytime we're at a community event, we also try and have a stash of those so we can give those out to folks that visit us and say hi to Fozzie, and they're pretty popular.
And you got stats on the back.
We do. We have his birthday. We have his favorite activities. We have an action shot this year of his swimming.
Swimming in the pool.
His favorite thing is swimming.
That's awesome.
So this year we included
cool.
an action shot, so
Very
people can see Fozzie.
I'm sure the kids would love to get a hold of this. So how does that work? How do they get this?
So anytime we're at a community event, if you ever see us out and about, you're welcome just to say, hey, do you have any Fozzie trading cards? And we'll do our best to make sure we have that. Anytime there's a big city event and we're there, we definitely have a stash with us. So if you ever see us out and about, please feel free to ask, and we'll definitely get them to you. They're great collector's items.
I don't know if you've had this experience, but whenever I'm around and he's around, they don't even know I exist. I mean, he knows I exist. He has his own card. Well, do I get an autograph or a handshake or anything like that?
It's a autograph because he's a
it's a
dog.
excuse me, it's an autograph. Excuse me, pardon me, it's a autograph.
And he has his own badge too, because again, that's one thing that we really need to talk about. They are service animals, and although it's the same as our dogs, our canines, and as well as our mounted unit and the horses. The specifics that they are protected under the law, right?
There's different laws depending state to state for this. For Fozzie, he's considered a police crisis response canine, so his job is a little bit different. His access is a little bit different than a traditional ADA dog. If an individual has disabilities and they have a guide dog, for example, that dog can go anywhere, restaurants or anything like that. Whereas we kind of go on cases we're working wherever we're involved and wherever we're doing a situation at a hospital, perhaps they'll invite us in. So there's some parallels though for sure. They're a little bit different in the nuance, but yeah, he's definitely he's considered a working dog, and we're really proud of him. It's kind of neat. We started with Fozzie here, and then Canadian Police Department, we helped them in Delta, Vancouver, British Columbia. They started a program, and since their program, there's 15 teams in Canada full-time that are modeled after kind of Fozzie and Scottsdale Police. So we're very proud.
We're going to put it on the map.
Yeah,
we're very proud of that.
That's wonderful. So you mentioned already that he recognizes when the phone rings. So
yes.
We know he lives with you.
Yes.
And he's been living with you the entire 8 years.
Yep.
And so in terms of longevity and being able to work, and before he retires and lives a good life, how many years do you think he'll be working?
Chief, that's a great question. Traditionally, I think dogs are around 8 years or so, the working dogs that chase the bad guys and do all the hard stuff. With Fozzie, because we're asking him to be kind of a friendly dog and be loving and sweet, we're not asking him to do really kind of heavy lifting, so to speak. So we're kind of thinking 10 to 12, probably 12 years old, he'll maybe retire. We definitely want to have a couple years where he just gets to just relax. But the reality is, talking to our vet, Dr. Savoda, he loves his job so much, and we're not asking him to do really physically demanding things. He just needs to be sweet and lovable, and kids have described him like a real-life teddy bear. So we're kind of guesstimating approximately 12 years old, but we're not sure. It's knock on wood, his health is doing great, and he's just doing wonderful. So.
And with all of our service animals, when we retire them, they stay with a handler.
Yes. Yeah, and in Fozzie's family, my family knows that when they invite us to a party that he needs to get invited first, because you get used to that. I mean, every hour of every day, you're with this person or this dog. Actually, I call him a person because you forget, but you get really bonded up, which is nice because for us, he needs to be predictable. We're taking him around kids and different dynamic scenes, and he's helping people calm down. I need to know his behavior and what kind of bugs him and what his signs are for stress.
Well, Anthony, thank you so much for being our guest.
Thank you for coming. Thank you,
Fozzie. Fozzie, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate that very much. Obviously, he's so unimpressed with me. Look, he's got back to me at this point.
This is a better side, I think.
We will be right back in just a moment with some other of our canine partners. Thank you. Hi, welcome back to Behind the Badge. And keeping with our program and talking about our animals that we have in service in the police department, probably our next segment is probably the kind of canine that the community is most familiar with, either through their experiences by observing things on the street or on television. These are the animals that we have that traditionally people think in terms of searching and finding individuals, whether we're trying to find someone who's lost or trying to find somebody who may have just committed a crime. But they do a multitude of tasks for us. And we thought it'd be a nice opportunity for us to present a couple of our handlers and talk about some of their abilities and skill sets for their partners.
Correct.
Okay. So with us today is Sergeant Nate Mullins and Officer Anthony Wells, excuse me. and Hannah.
Hannah.
Their partner, Hannah. And Hannah is the first female canine that we've had in Scottsdale. Now, is this unique? Just Scottsdale's never had one before? Other people have had them? Or having a female canine is unique?
Correct. It's the first one that we've had. It's not unique to have a female police service dog, but basically they don't export them very often out of Europe, so we don't get them very often over here in the States. So you don't see them a lot, but there are a few around the valley currently.
And Hannah, Anthony, is not your partner. You have a different partner, but we don't always like to mix them up too close to each other.
Correct.
Otherwise, it'd be a whole different kind of program.
My partner is Austin, and he's down in the car cooling off.
Okay. And Austin's how old? And
Austin is a 6-year-old Belgian Malinois.
And he's been with us how long?
For 3 years.
For 3 years. And you've been on the team for 3 years.
Correct. Okay. We both came together.
Okay. And Sarge, you're basically relatively new to the team, right? You just took over from Lieutenant Al Coffey, who's been on the program before. And you've been there for
6 months.
6 months, okay. So tell us a little bit about your background, guys, just so we can know, because sometimes people think, I want to become a police officer and I want to be a canine officer, and they think they're going to join the force and become canine right away.
Exactly.
It doesn't work that way. Exactly.
You know,
so tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to this position.
Well, I started in patrol, obviously. That's where everybody starts. And you get to learn a lot of the things that you like to do. There's a lot of different things you can do. You can become part of the traffic unit or whatever you want to do. My route took me through the SWAT team. So I was on the SWAT team for about 8 years, 2 years as a team leader, and then from there, when I promoted sergeant, I became a team leader on the SWAT team, and then from there, the opening or the testing came up for the canine unit, and I was very interested in it, and I put in for it, and luckily was able to get the position. But yeah, so it took a while, good 10 years to make it to where I'm at. But and once you do get here, it's not just they don't just give you a dog that does exactly what you say. You go through a 6-week school, and then on top of that, there's training every single week. And you're not just training patrol work, like searching for bad guys. There's also the other side of it, which is detection, and that whole other side takes a lot of time as well. So yeah, there's a lot of time to put in, and I'm just kind of starting to understand a lot of it, get to know a lot of it. But it's very fun, very challenging, but it's very rewarding.
We'll get to what their capabilities are in a second, and I know that as the world evolves, capabilities have to change all the time. And they have, in my career, I've seen changes in what canines have been able to do. So we'll come to that in a second, but I did want to get to Anthony's background and how you ended up in the position you're in.
Sure. I did 6 years in District 4 on patrol, nighttime patrol, weekend and night shift, coming out every Wednesday with the canine unit as we trained, show them you're not scared of dogs, help them out with their training. Then I tested in my 6th year, and that's where Austin came about. Austin was donated to us in memory of Bill Austin from 99.9 KEZ, DJ Bill Austin. So I was on the waiting list to go, and Austin came about, and I went to the unit in 2013, and like Sarge said, we went to California for 6 weeks to train and came back ready to go on patrol.
And so that work that you did to sort of like work with the unit to volunteer, it's called an agitator, right?
Correct.
That's basically the chew toy.
Correct. Hide and seek.
Yeah, so you let people know that part of it is like going out there and actually experiencing it, and they use you literally as that person that the dogs are chasing after.
They just want to see if you're crazy enough to want to get bit a million times, and then they say you're fit for the unit.
I don't know if it's so much being bit, Chris, as it's gnawed on.
Gnawed on, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And they gnaw on very tightly.
Yeah. Now tell us a little bit about the capabilities, because some dogs have multiple capabilities and some are just single focus. So tell us about our dogs. How are they?
Sure. So Austin is a narcotics detection dog, which he's certified in 4 odors, and he's a patrol dog. So we consider him dual purpose. He can search for people and things, which would be narcotics. So we have 5 narcotics dogs, and Sergeant Mullins is the one EOD dog. So I'll let you talk about that.
Okay. And again, she's dual purpose as well. So she's patrol certified, but she's also EOD certified, or she's a bomb dog.
Explain EOD to folks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she'll detect explosive odors. So there's 26 explosive odors. So it's a lot more for them to learn. She's got a really good nose, and she's learned very well. But yeah, it's definitely different as far as even between those 2 disciplines, how much you have to learn on it.
And so she will alert on things that amongst those 26 things that are explosive or can ignite, which is if you think about it, the danger involved of not just sending the animal in to go detect those smells, but we also have a handler on the other end of that leash. And I don't know how long that lead is at the longest. Is it 20 feet at the longest?
We have a 50-foot.
Yeah, we have a 50-foot. Okay, but it's still scary.
Close.
And we have, and certainly have in our business, lost canine in the line of duty. And we've had one loss in Scottsdale, and we've had one very, very serious injury to one of our canines that resulted in a retirement. So they do an amazing job for us, but it's a dangerous job too. And we shouldn't take it for granted. But in the process of them doing their very dangerous job, I think they save lives.
Oh, absolutely.
They save lives.
And Canine plays a very pertinent spot at Citizens Academy. So when we do Citizens Academy, Officer Wells was at our last Citizens Academy, and we give our citizens an opportunity to see just how talented the dogs are. But most importantly, it gives a chance for the officers and the sergeant to explain to our citizens just how we use the dogs. And there's a lot of misperceptions about policing, and then there's also a lot of misperceptions about canine dogs and being deployed. Right. So I believe that it's very important. Information is power, and that's why if you come to Citizens Academy, you will learn a lot about the dogs, how much they cost, what kind of a dog they are, what they eat, why they do what they do. And so I'll throw it over to you, Anthony, because I know you came in. It's probably one of the highlights is the dogs, the horses. The motors kind of get a little bit when we go out and do photo radar too, but
sure.
Your unit really gets people excited.
Yeah, we have the opportunity in this unit to come in contact with a lot of citizens when we go out to eat, when we're driving around, when we're giving the dogs a break. People see us all the time in uniform and have questions because most people have dogs, and they want to know about what we do, like you said, in Citizens Academy, and what our dogs are capable of, and basically what our dogs are doing for the city. So we get probably 100 times a week questions, and we enjoy it.
And so there are how many people in the unit?
We have 5 handlers, and then there's me, so 6 total dogs.
And we're 24/7 coverage, right?
7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Yeah. And then occasionally we need a dog that has a specialty that you have to address. We'll call people in. There's also a tremendous amount of support we get around the valley if our dogs detect something like ordnance. We call other folks that have some skill sets that can come in and identify what that may be, because they don't really identify. They just tell you there's something there. They hit on something. Mm-hmm. And we just recently had an incident where I believe we hit on something and had to call some specialists in to come in and verify that it was nothing, and maybe some residue left. Mm-hmm. But clearly it was a pretty scary moment because it was a vehicle parked near a building. Mm-hmm. And so, but we get tremendous support from the rest of the valley in terms of coming out and keeping the community safe. Lots of partnerships, and we go out and support. So, exactly. So major events at
I was just going to say that's exactly what I'd say.
Yeah.
That's what you guys do when we have the and our big major events, which are going to be coming up in January. Mm-hmm. You guys are utilized so much in detecting and doing the a pre-screen of
making sure it's safe. So like I asked Anthony in the last segment, these dogs live with you, right? And so it's really a 24/7 job. You do get vacations, you get sitters, I guess, and helpers, but for the most part, these are part of your family. And so how they do with the family? Because I know you've got children. I'm not sure, but
correct.
How they do?
They do real well. It's always different because each dog has its own personality. So Hannah is a very social dog, so she's just really happy. She likes being pet. She's gets very excited at home. So but you always have that. You always have to be a little bit careful because we have taught them to bite. So that you have to be careful with the way that you socialize them. So very slowly, but yeah, she does great. And most of the dogs do. You had quite a different experience with the socialization than I did, so I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, Austin, we consider him a high drive dog. So when he's at work, he loves to go to work. It took a little bit for me to get him acclimated at home, but now we're to the point where when he hears my Velcro ripping, turning on, put my vest on, he knows we're going to work, getting to go to work with Dad. When we see the car, we're going to work. So now when we pull in the driveway, it's the reverse. He knows we're going home, I get to eat, I get to hang out with the kids. He's not so much a pet at home, but he understands there's no bad guys here. So like Sarge said, you still have to be aware that he is a biting dog. So I'm still careful with him around my kids, but he pretty much acclimated at home like a regular dog would.
Okay. So
sorry, but like you said, there's still a pecking order, because I remember Sergeant Coffey said the dog, the girlfriend. And so there is still a pecking order, correct? I mean, because they do have to know that they're not a house pet, correct?
Yeah, they're still
just
pack
wanted to get that through.
Yeah. But do you guys have pets at home besides your service animal?
I do. I've got a couple.
How's that work?
Couple smaller Boston Terriers. They actually get along fine with her. The female, surprisingly, our little female didn't get along with her at first, but they worked it out.
Not jealous that this one's got a job and they don't have a job?
Yeah, it might be.
And I had the opposite experience. I had 2 German Shepherds coming into the unit, and that's one of the things when you're testing for the unit that may be a factor. So I had to give one of my dogs away to another police officer because Austin and him just weren't seeing eye to eye.
And that's a valuable lesson learned for people who are thinking about getting into this business, that you have to conserve. You already have
It's a big commitment. It's not like when you get home, you take off your uniform and you're done, because you have another responsibility always.
Correct.
So how many years of service do we get out of the dogs that we currently are using?
Anywhere from 9 to 11 years, just depending. So that's total years. So we'll get them at like 3 years old. So 7 to 8 years of service life. And obviously that depends on each dog. There's obviously health concerns that could happen, but typically that's about what we would get out of each dog.
And why do we get our dogs from overseas? I mean, why aren't there dogs here locally? I mean, there's a reason we do that.
They have a really good breeding program in Holland, and so the breeding program they have over there is kind of unmatched. There have been people that have tried to mimic it here in the States, but one of the big things that makes their dogs as good as they are is they have the CAMPV trials that they do, and the whole point of that is to get these titles, and they give them titles and they give them scores, and based on those scores they've shown certain aptitudes that make them good at police dogs to show the drives that we want.
And we've had good success.
Yes, sir.
And we've gotten great what I'm looking for, results as a result of actually getting these animals from overseas.
And they've saved a lot of lives, actually.
Absolutely.
And de-escalated a lot as well. And if you come to Citizens Academy, you'll learn a whole bunch more.
Maybe I need to go to Citizens Academy.
Yeah.
Save me a seat, will
I
you?
will.
Okay. Listen, guys, thank you so much for being
here.
Anna, thank you for being our guest. Thanks not confusing that with my arm. And thank you, folks, for being with us. And we look forward to seeing you, oh my gosh, in December. Until that time, have a great Thanksgiving, and best wishes to all of you. Be safe. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.